My name is Shae Cohen, and I did my TED Talk on neurodivergent students in early education. So, to get things started, just a little introduction. As I said, my name is Shae. I'm 17. I'm a junior here at Ossining High School, and I was diagnosed with autism when I was 15 years old. And my thesis statement is that every child should be screened for neurodivergence as they enter elementary school. The question is, why is early neurodivergence screening important? Well, neurodivergence doesn't just mean autism. It doesn't just mean ADHD. There's a variety of different disorders that are incorporated under that umbrella term. Dyslexia, ADHD, OCD, autism, even anxiety disorders can lead to a neurodivergent diagnosis. So these students in early education might be struggling silently with this disorder, and that can lead to feelings of ostracization and and feeling separated from their peers, unable to be able to build these foundational skills that neurotypical students are developing at that time. Myself personally, when I was growing up, I had a lot of trouble interacting and engaging with students my own age, and people would consider me somewhat of a teacher's pet, but mainly just because of the fact that I didn't know how to engage with another 8-year-old. I felt disconnected. I felt that connection towards adults because in my brain I was all over the place. I didn't know how to act my age. I'm still developing those social skills that I should have developed years ago to this day. And there's some unfortunate statistics that come with being autistic and disability. Just as trigger warning, the next slide does have some more descriptive statistics, but 28 times autistic individuals are 28 times more likely to have suicidal ideation and suicidal thoughts. 15% more, and we're talking children, 50% more of neurodivergent children have these ideations versus 0.05% of neurotypical students. So if you think about that, 15% of neurodivergent students are considering suicide. Children under the age of 13. We're not even talking teenagers. These are children. And they are struggling with this. A lot of them don't know why or how or what's wrong with them. I always thought that there was just something, that I was just weird and that there was nothing I could do about it. So getting that diagnosis at 15 was life-changing. Neurodivergence also can lead to a lot of anxiety, which can lead to individuals being driven towards taking drugs and alcohol as a coping mechanism. Those with autism have a much more likelihood to having a substance dependency, and it's not even related to IQ levels. It's actually the other way around. You may think that someone who has a lower IQ might tend to this, but it's actually those who have an IQ of 100 plus are 2 times more likely to end up using substance abuse, and those who have autism and ADHD together, which is not a fun combo, I can tell you from experience, are even more likely. So I want you guys to look at this chart. These are the ways that these children are thinking about suicide. It's very interesting to me because if you look at this chart, the majority for the autism spectrum disorder consider hanging as an attempt for suicide versus the non-autism spectrum disorder, the majority is overdose, which was very interesting to me. It was something I was unaware of when I started doing my studies into this, and it just leaped back into the whole thing about how the brain chemistry works differently in students and individuals with autism spectrum disorder versus those who don't, even in severe crises like suicide. So what can we do? English language learner students are screened for their English level as soon as they enter elementary school. So why not do the same for neurodivergence? As you can see over here, I have a chart depicting levels of English language proficiency, starting with entering up to commanding. I'm suggesting that we do a similar screening with students of all types, whether they have markers or not for neurodivergency, just to get a grasp. I'm not talking like large tests like this, which is the ABLS test, which is a great test for once you're aware a student has a disorder, but I'm talking just something simple, just a couple questions that they get screened on a couple years, like how the hearing and vision tests are done in the nurse's office every couple years to make sure a student is functioning properly. Do the same with neurodivergence, just a quick screening, and if they have certain markers, we can go further from there. So there's something called the autism color wheel, which I really like because it's simple to understand, it's easy for kids to understand, and it's very easy for you to figure out where you fall on your own chart. So if you look at the chart, the darker the circle is on the outside, the more prominent that attribute would be in the student, and the lighter the color, the less prominent. So a student can even give themselves this grade depending on the age, but if it's a younger kid, a teacher or an adult might want to do it with them, just asking them questions to see where they fall in certain categories. Obviously for nonverbal communication or things like stimming and meltdown, it might be more obvious to the eye, but depression, anxiety, social skills, sensory processing, these are more of the invisible struggle that a lot of neurodivergent individuals struggle with. The components of the UDL, which is the Universal Design for Learning, is something that I think all educators should incorporate into their classroom, regardless if they have students with neurodivergency or not. It's just an amazing way to make sure that everyone in the classroom feels connected. It includes representation, engagement, action, and expression, which are 3 core skills that every student should have the ability to build in their classrooms. There are some programs that do this, but what I'm trying to do is push this to be in public schools. Adults and parents shouldn't have to pay for their kids to receive equal education that their neurotypical peers would receive. So the Eden 2 programs and YAI do a great job, and they're both located in New York, but these programs could help the public school district as like a baseline about what we should be doing as well. So I have some other voices here. Over here is a quote I have from Jessica Giagrande, who is the Director of Student Support Services in secondary school. She says, "The concept of neurodivergence is moving us in the direction that everyone learns differently, and we have to incorporate that into our practice, regardless of the screening or diagnosis. We need to be prepared to teach the whole spectrum. Because we are moving into a world where neurodivergence is becoming normal and accepted, we need that to be the fabric of our society, because that would help everybody. We can't use the concept of neurodiversity to harm other people. It needs to become a term that includes other people, not to other them, because everyone has a right to feel safe and included." So just to wrap things up, some possible tests to run, like I was saying before, is using the autism color wheel. If an older student possibly considers that they themselves might feel this way, which is something that I've ended up figuring out myself, they can look at the wheel themselves, put the markers on themselves. Otherwise, we need to work as a district, as a community, to build these tests to help our students, because these are our future. We should not be putting students in other positions, giving them a lack of education just because of a simple diagnosis or a lack thereof. How this will change their learning experience and their just experience in general is it would have really helped me when I was younger to be able to have those foundational skills to build the skills that I now need to focus more on in present day. I have a lot of anxiety. I struggle with social skills. I struggle with presentations and eye contact, which might seem a little bit ironic because I'm out here presenting to you guys, but I feel the need to do this to make sure that other students like me get the help they need before it's too late, because in a lot of cases, it leads to those issues that we talked about before. So how I plan to implement this is after this presentation, I want to bring this up to the Board of Education. With the support from some peers and other educators in the building, I want to get this implemented in the school district and the state and the country worldwide, if possible, as soon as I can. This is something I'm very passionate about, and I would love to see it everywhere. So here's some resources I used, and thank you everyone for being here.